A disrespectful form of addressing a woman is to call her a woman. I don't really know what to say. Hi guys, Season Robbins here. I wanted to show you this video about, it's just the interview. I haven't watched the movie itself, the What is the Woman movie, but it gave me like a real giggle. And I'm not a conclusionist, so I'm not gonna be like, this is right, this is wrong, blah. But I am more of an observationalist, and I just like to be like, okay, what is going on, and like, what is the point of view of this party, and what is the point of view of that party? Because I feel like a lot of these subjects are like so untouched. Like, people either are like, I'm not dealing with this subject, or it's like so controversial that people are really heated about it. There's like no one who's just like, well, okay. Like, we can still love humanity. So that's the niche I'm gonna be filling here. I feel like it's a small niche. All right, so the movie's called What is a Woman by this dude Matt Walsh. He's a conservative. He's very, very conservative. So if you look him up here, there's a comedian by his name right here. That's funny because he's actually very funny as well. He's a commentator, right? So am I. He has some show and then some other show, and he's really good at getting under people's skin. I think just being like really triggery. He's got great like comedic timing. He's actually pretty funny. Okay, so I didn't watch the movie. I'm just literally watching the interview of him explaining the movie, because I always find it to be more fascinating. It's like, why did you make this thing? What were you thinking? Not just about him, like in general. Like, I just want to like be in people's heads and like know how they create stuff. So let's just go ahead and watch.
And now something I've been waiting weeks to bring you. It's the extraordinary Matt Walsh, the man behind the groundbreaking documentary, What is a Woman?
Here we go.
What is a woman? Can you tell me that? Well, you're at the Women's March. You must have some idea. Please, if one person could tell me.
So he's got great comedic timing. He can get under people's skin. People understand, like, he's talking like, people can't define a woman, so therefore this whole thing, there's no point to this whole thing.
What a woman is.
You are not here for women. We ask you to leave.
What is that? A woman is not anything in particular.
There is not one particular thing.
It could be many things to many people.
Some women have penises, right? Some men have vaginas.
I like scented candles, and I've watched Sex and the City.
Yeah.
How do I know if I'm a woman?
There you go. I think he is a woman. I think he's a woman, but he's protesting too much. Like, he's insecure about it. So now he's got to go around asking everyone else. Hang on. Woman. Let's see the definition. But remember, definitions are what we make them, right? And so the definition is Doja Cat. There you go. An adult female human being. Blah blah blah. A person with the qualities traditionally associated with females. A female. Where's the definition that involves sexuality? Whoa, did they take it off? A formation peculiar to English, the ancient word for being alive. As a member of the fair sex. Alright, let's just go with female. I am having trouble defining this. A female, a word denoting the sex that can bear offspring or produce eggs, distinguished biologically by the production of gametes that can be fertilized by male gametes.
To different things. If you did not know that, now you do. Sex is a chromosomal phenomenon. Nearly all of us have 2 sex chromosomes in all of our somatic cells. If both are X, your sex is female. If one is X and one is Y, your sex is male. Gender is a different phenomenon. It is still biological, but it is a neurochemical construct. This means that ultimately it is still genetic in basis, but it absolutely is not determined merely by the sex chromosomes. Thoughts and feelings are ultimately chemical phenomena. We all have a neurochemical profile that guides how we think and feel, and part of that is gender identity. Somewhere between 99 and 99.9% of all people, gender identity aligns with biological sex. Hence the term cisgender. Cis is a prefix that means same. But for that remaining fraction of a percent, which totals to millions and millions of people all over the world, their gender identity is the opposite of their biological sex. Hence the term transgender. Trans is a prefix that means opposite. The unfortunate linguistic coincidence is that we use terms like man and woman, or male and female, in describing both of these phenomena. That is where the confusion arises.
That's a great question.
You're not a scientist. You're not a gender studies major.
No.
How do you know that you're a man?
I guess because I got a dick.
It's great comedic
Can a
then.
man become a woman?
I'm not a woman, so I can't really answer that.
Women only know what women are.
Are you a cat?
No.
Can you tell me what a cat is? Do you want to tell us what a woman is?
This 95-minute
It is
documentary
naughty.
is
It's funny. So okay, so I think the problem here is, I think, like in our society, in our and like not, it's not like a bad problem, but the challenge is that in our society we're trying to redefine ourselves. We're trying to not be limited. We're trying to rewrite things. We're trying to be individuals to the point where we might not want to be defined by labels or groups.
author, speaker and podcast host Matt Walsh. He also has a book by the same name, and he travelled across America and other parts of the world seeking to answer that key question. I began by asking Matt why he made this documentary in the first place.
Well, it starts with just recognizing that gender ideology is this pervasive, toxic influence in our culture across the world.
Alright, so this is where I think I personally have beef with it, because he's like, it's pervasive, it is pervasive, but it's like, it's the question of toxicity, right? So how does it harm others, and how does it infringe on others? And does it at all? And I think it comes from a place of kind of like a lack mindset. Like, if you're different than me, then you put me in danger.
Across the Western world, anyway, and also realizing that, you know, in spite of the fact that it's been so successful in claiming so many people's minds,
like it's claiming people's minds, it's dangerous. The funny thing is that we as humans, we're always pushing forward. We always want to try different things. And there's always going to be the people that are pushing forward, the people that are holding us back. And honestly, like, both are necessary. You kind of need that tug of war. But the people that are at the very extreme ends always appear to be like in like a huge fight.
it is really quite hollow at its core. And it seemed to me, you know, going back years, that just a couple of questions really bring down the whole house of cards, starting with...
So he's trying to kind of bring down a thing, a dangerous thing.
The question, which is in the title of the movie, of course, what is a woman? If you can't define what the word woman is, then nothing that the gender ideologues say makes any sense. None of the claims that they make any sense if they can't define the term. And as we discovered filming the documentary, they certainly cannot define the term.
So basically he's doing the what is a woman question, that's the title, in order to take down the whole movement. Now, and actually, the thing I have an issue with here is that like, the question is, what is a woman? It's not what is a man. It's not what is gender. It's like a question that's designed to be triggering within itself.
As you mentioned, you spoke to doctors who performed these surgeries, irreversible surgeries on some very young patients. Let's hear from one of those doctors you interviewed.
What's the youngest patient that you've operated on?
The youngest patient I've done vaginoplasty on is age 16.
Do you worry that minors just don't understand enough about themselves? They're not neurologically developed enough yet to make permanent life-altering decisions?
Absolutely not.
Just a very casual, dismissive attitude to a 16-year-old making a decision that is a lifelong decision. There's no coming back from that. Now, back to what is a woman. You spoke to plenty of experts, and some of them were triggered by the strangest things. Even the...
Here they're like slicing each other up. There's like, is this a safe environment to complain about this? Because so much of the world, I don't know if it's like at people at home, but it's like so much of like the media, there's a lot of the puritanical, extremely puritanical woke movement, kind of sanitizing, and this is okay to say, this is not okay to say. It's very much like a schoolyard bully effect, where people are like, I don't know if I want to be this woke, but I also don't want to be canceled, so we're just gonna go with it. So it's like this bullying happening on a massive scale, and here they're just kind of like sizing each other up, like, is it safe to talk here?
So at very young ages, whether it's surgery or drugs that sterilize kids, we're being told that the child is, quote, making a decision at such a young age.
I think I want to add a little bit to the conversation from a reincarnation perspective, because I don't want to like just be going over the same thing over and over, the same points that have been made before. From a reincarnation perspective, which you don't have to believe, it's kind of like confusing. Like, the way I understand how the world works, and what I believe personally, is that we are born in bodies, and we choose our bodies, we choose our parents and where we live, and we choose when we're born, and we also kind of sign off on our death before we die. And then in terms of that, there's a question of, if we choose our bodies, how is it that people are being born and they're like, no, like, I'm the wrong gender? How can you be the wrong gender if you choose your own body? It's like, there's some kind of pre-birth mistake. There is a conservative argument, like a Christian conservative argument, about like, you know, like God doesn't make mistakes. And like, I don't think there's randomness and mistakes in the world, but if someone is born and they have circumstances in their life that they wish to change, then that's kind of the whole point of life, you know. You work with your circumstances, you try things, you have challenges, and all of these challenges are opportunities to more deeply understand what it means to be you, you know. And so on the one hand, you want to take care of others, you want to have basic standards as a society, and yet you cannot control people to the extent where it's like, I'm gonna take all the mistakes you can make in your life and I'm gonna remove them for you in order for you to have a better life, in order for you not to be hurt in ways and by circumstances that I perceive as hurtful. The way I see it here is I see a control issue. I see souls born into bodies that where they experience like gender dysphoria, and they wish to change, undergo massive change. I can see them being here for the purpose of defining themselves, redefining themselves. I mean, people can go back and forth between genders, like they're born one lifetime, they can be female, then they can be male, they can be born in different countries or whatever. So that's not a problem, you know. It's not like, oh, I wish to experience one thing or the other. It's kind of like literally souls are being born and they're like, no, I want to experience this change within a lifetime, not between lifetimes. So I find that interesting.
The word truth was seen as triggering and transphobic. Let's have a look.
Well, I'm not even talking about social context. I'm just trying to start by getting to the truth, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really uncomfortable with that language of like getting to the truth. Again, in social life.
Why is that uncomfortable?
So truth has become like one of the most trigger words ever. People are like, my truth, your truth, everyone's truth.
Because it sounds actually deeply transphobic to me. And if you keep probing, we're going to stop the interview.
If I probe about what the truth is?
You keep invoking the word truth, which is condescending and rude. I'm saying to you...
So Matt Walsh, he's just like a master triggerer, you know? That's his style, is incredibly provocative. And I would recommend don't invite him to interview you. Because he's gonna be provocative.
Was the word truth condescending and rude?
Why don't you tell me what your truth is, and you're walking on 30 seconds more of thin ice before I get up.
Matt, how did you keep your cool throughout these interviews? Because
see, I think the difference is that Matt Walsh, like, he actually enjoys like pissing people off.
Just watching them is maddening. I mean, how can somebody be so offended by truth, by the word truth, by the pursuit of truth?
Of course he's offended. You're like taking down his whole self-concept. You're attacking, like you're going to his house, to his place, you're asking for an interview, and then you're kind of attacking and trying to dismantle his whole like world concept.
Yeah, it was a challenge sometimes. Sometimes a challenge not to laugh in their face. Sometimes a challenge not to scream at the outrageous, ridiculous things I'm being told. But what you just heard there, that really, almost every conversation with these people eventually devolves into some version of that. You know, you get away from gender, and pretty soon you're getting into, well, what is truth? Is there a truth? Whose reality are we talking about? I mean, I had that kind of interaction so many times, because what you find out is that at base, at bottom, all this gender ideology stuff, it's really a war on truth. It's really, you know, really comes down to relativism and the belief that we all get our own truth and our own reality. And I think that's ultimately what they're trying to defend, I think.
Yeah, so this is perfect. So right here at 10 minutes into this interview, he gets to the bottom of what bothers him about this whole movement. I mean, he makes good points. He kind of makes good points about how early is it too early, and what if some people regret it, and the surgeries have danger, and they do. You know, everything has risks. Being alive has risks, you know. All of these points, which are valid within themselves, are being used in order to kind of discuss and support his fear about this movement and the problem with this movement. And right here he explains that the problem of this movement is that it is a fight, it is a war on truth. The word truth, by the way, is being thrown around to the point where it's losing its meaning. Just like if you write a word too many times, you can't remember exactly how it's spelled anymore, and you're not sure if it's spelled right anymore. So I think that his problem here is that it is a war on objectivity. It is a war on quote-unquote reality. because the world is changing. Like in the last 10, 20 years, not just 10, really in the last 15 years, the world has changed so much. Like we're moving towards this very virtual reality. We're working from home. We're staying apart. Men are turning into women, vice versa. Like we're changing very rapidly who we are. So I think the problem he's having here is that he wants to kind of get a grip on reality, quote unquote. He wants an objectivity that everyone can agree on. He wants to know that not only are we all as humans on the same boat, but we can all agree that what we're on is a boat. And that, like, some people are like, no, we're on an airplane. And then other people are like, no, we're on a rocket. We're gonna redefine what we're on. We're gonna call it something different. And that bothers him. And I think the reason it bothers him is I think he can't understand how are we supposed to take care of each other if we can't even agree on what we're on. Like, why are people using their imagination? Why are they trying to redefine themselves? Why are we trying to complicate life? I think that's what's bothering him.
Well, it is. It is a denial of truth, a denial of logic, denial of biology sometimes. And these conversations that you had where you did keep your cool, my goodness, some of them are bordering on the absurd. We've got here another expert who's talking about, you know, whether chickens laying eggs have been assigned a gender.
Male gametes. That's what makes me male.
No, your sperm don't make you male.
Then what does?
It's a constellation.
In reality.
Now, the argument between them here is, so she's saying it's a constellation. It's a big definition. Because they're talking about as a human, she's talking about as a human being, fitting inside a culture, fitting inside a society. What does it mean to be a woman or a man, a female or a male? Because we're very social creatures and there's a lot of construct behind it. Like how we act and how we fit in and what experiences we go through and what experiences we think we should or we could go through depending on our gender. Now he's talking from a biological point of view. Now biology is something that we have sat down as human beings and we have just kind of generally agreed upon. So this is the biology. This is how we're gonna define it. But we are sitting down as human beings now and we are perhaps redefining it. And we're like at this place of redefining.
In truth, okay?
Whose truth are we talking about?
The same truth that says we're sitting in this room right now, you and I.
No, you're not listening.
If I see a chicken laying eggs and I say that's a female chicken laying eggs, did I assign female, or am I just observing a physical reality that's happening in the world?
Does a chicken have gender identity? Does a chicken cry?
Well,
Does a chicken commit suicide?
Does the chicken commit suicide? So there it is. There comes out the point that she's making. And the point that she's making is that gender, female, male, there is a very like complicated social, psychological part to it that he's not it's kind of like he's disrespecting that part, and I think that's the idea here.
Frame it because you're trying
to. Chicken has sex like any biological organism.
Chicken has an assigned gender, but a chicken doesn't have a gender identity.
So we assign female to chickens when they lay eggs?
A gender identity.
We assume they're female if they lay eggs.
Oh, goodness me. Now, Matt, there was a time when this sort of ideology was confined to university campuses and people thought, oh, well, you know, that's where you debate these sort of radical ideas.
This is my favorite part by far. This is like so like parental controlling. Watch.
Movement has got enormous disproportionate power in just every facet now. You look at not just public institutions but private institutions, the number of corporates that virtue signal about this issue. Can you just help us understand the power of this activist group, such a small group, but with such disproportionate influence and power?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons we made the movie, really, was for people to understand just how powerful this ideology is, how widespread it is. And that's one thing I've heard from people who've watched it is lots of people have told me, well, I didn't realize how bad it was until I saw the film. And that's not the only thing I want people to take away from the film, but that is one of the things I want them to take away is that this is not just something out on the fringes or, as you say, just in the universities anymore that we can ignore.
They're like, we let them have a little fun on campus. You know, they were being, you know, intellectual in their heads, but it got out of hand. And we need to shut this down. This intellectualism is spreading. So this is like very strong, controlling parental vibes, with the intent of protecting others, and the intention to protect others always comes from a place of fear. It comes from a place of assumption that others need to be protected, that we're in danger, and that is not okay.
It is everywhere. And I think what happened is, you know, it seems like
it's not just at the universities anymore where we can ignore. That's like the best part. It's like, just contain it. Contain the issue to the Ivy Tower.
Came out of nowhere 5 or 10 years ago, but it really didn't. It made its way into the institutions, especially academia, you know, government, media. It made its way into those institutions over the course of decades. And then from there, I think, filtered down into the general population. And then maybe, you know, 8-10 years ago is when it kind of it exploded onto the scene on a mainstream level. And now, you know, you go anywhere, and at least you go anywhere in the Western world, and people are impacted by.
Does it not sound like he's talking about a virus? It started at this campus. The campus was too crowded, and the disease started spreading. And then it broke out of campus, and then it's like it can go anywhere in the population.
These ideas, and many people have bought into them without even realizing that they have.
Right. So again, it's like this need to protect others. I think it's interesting because the thing is, if it wasn't this, it would be something else, you know. And that's the challenge of being human. It's like humans want to expand. They want to break boundaries. They want to push things to the next level. And that's why there's this feeling of like, so we're growing and we're growing, and we're accepting this group of people now, and then we're accepting this group of people now. But like these other groups keep springing up, and they all want acceptance. What is up with that? We're gonna end on a joke here. Oh, there's Jon Stewart. Yeah, I think Jon Stewart is largely making, here he's making the point of we as humans are moving towards redefining things.
Gender and sex complexity.
When did he?
For those who don't fit into a simple binary.
So that's him 2 months ago, so that's him commenting. I think he's like directly commenting on the movie.
Meant to be seen with humanity. It wasn't always like this, people. As recently as, let's say, the 1990s, early 2000s, people were making shitty, reductive jokes about the subject. What can I say? The joke rhymed. And shitty and reductive jokes are kind of my brand. But as we know from history, any moment of progressive visibility will be met with a vicious backlash.
He makes some jokes here. And then I like this piece at the very end. Hang on.
In the culture war.
For all of recorded.
This is the part.
A woman is a deformity that occurred in the ordinary course of nature.
So he just starts throwing various definitions of a woman throughout.
That's Aristotle. I apologize. I'm sorry, that's not what I meant. I meant a woman is a person who has no legal existence once married. I'm sorry, that's early American coverture law. That's not right. No, throughout history, it's not a gotcha question. A woman is 30 shekels.
I think we need to end on that definition right there. I mean, yeah. If anyone's gonna be deterred from becoming a woman, it's gonna be because, you know, you're only gonna be worth the 30 shekels. Let me show you something funny here. Some commenters here on this. We're gonna end with some comments on the Jon Stewart video because they're funny, and funniness always helps. They're like, what is the definition of a woman? Answer: your mama. And it's like, it works on various levels. And the person's like, nice burn, nice. And they're like, but what if your mama identifies as non-binary? And then they're like, no such thing. But why not, your daddy? And then this person is like, your parents abandoned you day one, so how do you know? And then this person's like, triggered. I love comments. Alright, so I'm gonna wrap up the video. Just in case people are confused, I am pro living. Letting people experience things. I think a lot of the issues here are that, like, let's say Matt Walsh, I think a lot of his issues come from a place where this is not his issue, and he does not understand it experientially firsthand. It's not his life path, and it feels wrong to him because it's not his thing. It's not his guidance. He is interested in understanding, I think, or at least he interacts with humans. I'm gonna give him points for just trying to interact with others, even if it is just to heckle them and make jokes. You know what? He's living, and I really respect that because it's hard. You know, it is hard to get in the world and talk to people, and you know, you can be misunderstood and you can be judged and you can be embarrassed. So, you know, points for him for trying to live. But I think the bottom line is, like, he does not understand it because it's not his guidance. So it feels wrong to him. But just because it feels wrong to him doesn't mean it is, you know, wrong for others. And I think the big issue here is that he says it's an issue of truth. I say it's an issue of control, where he's trying to, like, impose kind of his feeling of wrongness about it onto others, even though it might not be wrong for others to consider these ideas, to try things out. Because at the end of the day, we are here to live and to experience. And I think above all else, I believe in the right for people to experience things, even if those things to us look painful, even if those things are like war and abuse and violence, and you kind of look on and you're like, oh my god, like, let's erase all violence. But as soon as you start erasing things, you're erasing experiences in the world. But we're here to experience, you know. So if it's not for you, then it's not for you. I think ultimately we're here to express ourselves, and even though sometimes we kind of get in each other's way and we step all over each other, and I think that's one of the hardest battles. The battle for trying to find the balance between my right as an individual versus other individuals' rights, and to create a space and a buffer around different people so we can all have our experiences. Thank you for hanging out with me. This was a topic on my brain, and I just wanted to spend some time thinking about it, and I will see you later. Bye.